The Philadelphia 76ers have picked up a victory to push the series to 2-1 against the New York Knicks, but it's still coming fully on the shoulders of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Now, it was a bit of I don't even want to say down game for Tyrese Maxey, as he still ended up with 25 points and 7 assists, but it was very clear that it was the Joel Embiid show once again. And there's an NBA star, a former NBA star, Rasheed Wallace, a four-time NBA All-Star, former NBA champ, who has taken exception to the play of one specific Sixers player, that being Tobias Harris. Now, I don't want to be overly hard on Tobias Harris, that we do know that he is a guy who is a part of this playoff run, regardless of your feelings about him, and I don't think now is the time to kick a guy when they are down, because he's clearly struggling, as has been the case throughout pretty much the entirety of the season. In my mind, Tobias Harris is who Tobias Harris is at this point. That expecting to be something different, you're just not going to get that, and frankly, for the contract talks, which I will dig into a little deeper, it's not his fault that the Sixers offered him this contract, that he was written a check that his play was unable to cash, and that's kind of just the unfortunate reality of the situation. But to get into what Rasheed Wallace said here, and I will excuse a couple expletives here that I will not say, but he says, I can blame Tobias with his blank, though. Yeah, and if you listening, we mad with you too, dog. You got to step that the blank up. Yo, you getting all that bread, we need more than 5 for 12 for 10 points. Now, I hear you, Rasheed Wallace. Believe me, I do. I've been there many times in the Tobias Harris roller coaster. To rise to his defense a little bit here, he's trying, he's competing, he's playing hard, and even on like the Tobias scale of effort, he's giving it. That this isn't something that he's, not trying or not bringing his best game. He just simply isn't what they want him to be or really need him to be. And to dive into what Tobias has given this team specifically, to look at the game log so far in the playoffs, that in Game 1, in his 31 minutes and 25 seconds of action, produced just 7 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. In Game 2, he played 41 minutes and 12 seconds of action, had 10 points, 3 assists, 9 rebounds, shot 4 for 11 from the field. And then last night in Game 3 against the Knicks, 33 minutes and 25 seconds of action, shot 4 of 10 from the field, had 8 points, just 5 rebounds. He did have a block, and that was also his first game without a turnover in this. Overall, 42.9% is the best that he has shot from the floor in any of these games. Shot 36.4% in that game too. And then from beyond the three-point arc, just 3 for 11 so far this series. So not exactly what they are looking for. It's clear that this Tobias Harris is not going to be the third option on the Sixers team. And unfortunately, they just have to go about that. Now, the unfortunate reality of the Tobias Harris situation here is that when things are going well, when the Sixers are winning, when this team is playing well, nobody's going to care. That everybody can look past it. But the second that things go south, he is going to be the number one direction where people point. Because, frankly, when you talk about money and the way that things happen in the NBA, that it comes with expectations. That he's paid to be really the number 2 option on this team, but obviously with Maxey on the rookie deal, that he is the number 3 guy. He's expected to be that, and he simply can't. And to dive into that contract exactly here, a 5-year, $180 million contract was signed back in the 2019 offseason there. He is in the final season of it this year, making $39.3 million, which once again is 28.87% of the salary cap, and that is why it comes with that type of expectation there. It also did come with a trade kicker, meaning his salary would go up if he was dealt in a deal this year, which I do wonder if that played a role for some teams not wanting a part of that. But the bottom line is, you just have to deal with what version of Tobias Harris there is and limit him from hurting this team when there are the opportunities. Now, my personal critique of Tobias Harris here has always been there's not one defining skill set that commands you to have him on the floor. That when you're rounding out a roster, and this is my opinion on kind of basketball roster construction here, you get your 2 stars, and then you find players to bring out the best in them. That Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are obviously the faces of the Sixers team, and around that, you bring in guys with skill sets that maximize their abilities. That means for this specific Sixers team, guys that rebound well, guys that can shoot the 3 well, and then, defend as well on that end of the floor. You do have to have that type of perimeter defense. A guy like Kelly Oubre has definitely carved out a niche by showing these types of abilities. He's been terrific defensively. He did drop 15 points in last night's game. And to kind of touch on last night's game specifically here, we'll look at the box score. The Sixers pulling a 125-114 victory. You can see Joel Embiid with a 50-point performance, an absolute masterclass. Also added 8 rebounds and 4 assists. Shot 13 of 19 from the field, the first player in NBA history to score 50 points with under 20 shots in a playoff game. And then looking beyond that, Maxey still added his 25 points. his 7 assists there, a pretty solid game from him. The bar has become incredibly high for his level of play, but he did what was needed to be done. Kelly Oubre with 15 points there, who essentially has emerged as the third option on this team. Also, shout out to Campaign off the bench with an 11-point performance. And then coming in 5th in scoring of everyone on the roster. I'm sorry, 6th, as Kyle Lowry had more points as well. Tobias Harris has 8 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of 10 shooting. Now, my critique of Tobias Harris, once again, it is about the skill set, the complementary abilities, which he frankly kind of lacks. That his skill set as a basketball player is very much this jack of all trades, master of none. That he's not this assassin scorer or tell a friend to tell a friend I'm a sharpshooter. He's a guy that is pretty good at a lot of things, does not have an area in which he particularly shines. When you compare it to, and I'm not going to put Buddy Hield on a platter right now because, frankly, he's played really poorly and doesn't deserve to play for the remainder of the series if we're going to get minutes like Campaign gave them. But when you think about a player like Buddy Hield, that he does have a defining skill set, that as a three-point shooter, the gravity that he commands as a shooter, that's why he's beneficial to a basketball team. Now, in this exact same situation here, Buddy Hield's not doing that right now, so now you cut him out of the lineup. I don't understand why there's not that same give and take with Tobias Harris, that when he's not doing his thing, just take him out. When he's not providing plus minutes to the Sixers team, then don't use him. And to look at some of the other options, which I understand are somewhat limited, they're looking at the depth chart here. There are guys like Nico Batum. There are guys like DeAnthony Melton, who was cleared to play but did not suit up last night. Kelly Oubre, of course. I even would not mind dusting off the tires on a guy like Ricky Council IV or KJ Martin. Ricky Council IV specifically is a dude that plays with all-out effort every second that he's there, that he does bring a little bit more on the rebounding category, despite being smaller of frame. He gets to the line at a better rate. He can create his own shot, and he brings an athletic pop that, frankly, from my eyes, I think Tobias has aged significantly this year. And that is really disappointing because for the dude specifically, he's going to be a free agent this offseason, and frankly, I still expect him to walk into quite a bit of money on a struggling and young team, be looked at as kind of this leader category, a guy that can be a locker room tone setter, and, you know, have fun out there and with the Detroit Pistons, Tobias. But the bottom line is the Sixers will be getting off this contract, and that is a great reason for optimism moving forward. But in the short term, Rasheed Wallace is right. That there just has to be a little something. You have to give a pulse of an impact on this game. That if you're not watching this game with a fine-tuned eye, you could completely miss that Tobias Harris is on the floor for a lot of these performances. And even when he is at his best, it is kind of frustrating that he has some of the quietest good games that we've seen. That it feels like he'll drop a quick 20 and 10, and you don't even notice it throughout the flow of the game. That it's a lot of second quarter points, him getting to his back of the basket post fadeaways, which I just hate as a basketball shot selection type thing. I think you have to be a very good player to warrant those type of shots. And Tobias, I mean, we're seeing the proof in the pudding for what those results have been for him. But once again, these Sixers do need him to provide something for this playoff run. And for the Nick Nurse conversation, I do want to tip the hat and say that Tobias was benched in crunch time yesterday. I do think that is a notable storyline and something to watch moving forward. I was very encouraged by Nurse's decision to close without Tobias Harris in that Miami Heat game. That's something I would like to see moving forward. And if he is playing his best basketball, there's no reason why he shouldn't continue playing. But there should not be this blind loyalty to make sure this guy's on the floor in a lot of ways where I think he's oftentimes rewarded. So I do shout out to Rasheed Wallace for speaking up, speaking his mind, and calling a spade in the way that a lot of people will not. I don't want to be too hard on Tobias because, once again, this is now the time where they do need him. It should be all this team banding together. And also, like, in reality, I think a great deal of the conversation just is not his fault. That is on the Sixers for putting him in a position and laying expectations on him that he was not capable of fulfilling. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation here. The bottom line is the countdown to his final games in a Sixers uniform is inching clearer. I am tired of the Tobias Harris experience, that I would not take him back on this team for a veteran's minimum. And I do think it is best for both sides to move on. He does look more checked out than I've seen him, which is very frustrating. But there's still some playoff games to win, so we will see what happens from here. Once again, thank you to Rasheed Wallace for speaking up, letting us know the feelings on Tobias Harris as a whole. Shout out to each and every one of you guys for tuning into this video here. Make sure you're dropping a like, drop your thoughts on Tobias Harris in the comments, and clicking that subscribe button to help the Sixers Digest family grow. 2-1, Sixers still trailing in the series. We got plenty of basketball still to break down, as I don't think they're going anywhere. Talk to you next time, and peace.